this episode of Plastic Ghosts, we're going to talk about some of those forgotten 80s toys that used to go bump in the night. So, stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Plastic Ghosts. My name is Rob, and in this special Halloween edition, we talk about some of the most monstrous of forgotten 80s toys. Out of all of my episodes, this is probably the only one that I don't have to doctor up with any Halloween hoopla, as it's already spooky enough to talk about these toys that used to live in the toy aisle but now haunt our memories. So anyway, in this episode we will be talking about those forgotten 80s toys that I have categorized as being monster toys. So, without further ado, let's get to number 1. Number 1 in our forgotten, spooky, monstrous toys is a toy I didn't even know about, from a toy company I didn't even know existed. Now, there might be a reason for that, and we'll talk about that as we get a little bit deeper into this. But for now, we are talking about Pineapple's glowing ghost capers. Now, these were released in 1984, and from what I understand, there were 2 waves of them. Now, there are 4 ghosts in total, and from what I've read, 3 were released in the first wave, and they didn't have a lot of bells and whistles. But when they came around to a second wave, they released 4, did a little bit more paint applications on them, and included a little storybook, because, that was kind of popular back in the day. Now, these vinyl figures were about 2.5 inches tall, and as the name says, they definitely glowed in the dark. Which, I'm telling you, back in the day, that's all you needed to say for me to buy it. I mean, heck, even today I see glow in the dark on something and I'm all about it. Now, I've never heard of these before, and I've never heard of Pineapple. Now, what I could find with my little bit of research was that Pineapple seems to be one of those magazine ordering companies, and I don't mean a catalog, I mean, one of those pages in the magazines or comic books where if you sell a certain amount of things, you could potentially win a 10-speed bike. Now, this ad shows that there are like 1 in 5 10-speed bikes up for grabs if you sell enough things. And these ghosts were one of those things that you could sell or buy. Now, I don't know if this was just a scheme that Pineapple cooked up, or this was their whole, business model. That I am not sure of, because there's not a lot of info about these little guys online. But they are super cute, they glow in the dark, and they're ghosts, so they're awesome across the board. Now, these would be perfect for any Halloween toy display, or to battle Ghostbusters or what have you. Now, when I did this for Capers, as you can see on the packaging, they did that as well. I don't know why Capers is in quotations. I mean, why don't they just call them Glow Ghost Capers instead of just Glow Ghost Capers? See, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I would love to get my hands on one of those little storybooks to figure out what it's all about. But until then, we can longingly look at these little cute ghosts, and hopefully they'll turn up when we do our eBay search. Number 2 on the list is from a toy line that I actually talked about in the past. In the Forgotten 80s Monster Plush Toys episode, I talked about the Zuglys. This time, instead of appearing in plush form, they appear in plastic. This time they are released by Manimal, and again, from 1986, as the plush toys were. Now, these charming little hug-a-monsters were able to be broken into 3 separate pieces. You had a head, a torso, and legs. From there, you could mix them up and interchange their pieces with other Zuglys in your collection to create new and interesting monsters. They also say they are compatible with Manimal's other little action figure line, the Zoofles. Now that's one that we will talk about in a future episode, but believe me, if you had some Zoophiles laying around and your Zuglies and were able to create an amalgam creature of the night out of all of them, it would be pretty awesome. Like I was saying in that Forgotten 80s Monster plush toy episode, Zuglies were very much inspired by the popularity of My Pet Monster. A lot of people were trying to cash in on that popularity and bring some monsters to the market. At the end of the day, we are the lucky ones for having so many awesome monster toys out there. Like I mentioned, Zuglies are kind of charming. I mean, I'm just a big fan of their vibrant and wacky colors, and they're just really cute monsters to have laying around. And to paraphrase something else that I said earlier, any monster toy is a good monster toy. Number 3 comes from a toy company that is a repeat offender in the Plastic Ghosts universe. That is Fleetwood. This time they bring us the Manimal toy line, released in 1984. Now, I have no idea if this was supposed to be based on the Manimal TV show that came out a year previous, but you never know. I would hate to think that they rushed to market on a failed superhero show of the early 80s. Unfortunately, Manimal only lasted 8 episodes, and it was one of those things that I loved it, and I tuned in as much as I could when I was a kid, and when it disappeared, I didn't know what was going on. I was too young to understand the comings and goings of network television, so I just waited, and it never came. Now, if you were not aware, Manimal, like I said, was a superhero TV show in the early 80s. Back then, there were a lot of really neat genre type of television shows, and this fell within the superhero genre loosely. Now, let me read you the opening narration just so you get a gist of what's going on before we talk about the toy a little bit more. So, let me jump on here and read to you the opening narration, which was Dr. Jonathan Chase, wealthy, young, handsome. A man with the brightest of futures, a man with the darkest of pasts. From Africa's deepest recesses to the rarefied peaks of Tibet, heir to his father's legacy and the world's darkest mysteries. Jonathan Chase, master of the secrets that divide man from animal, animal from man, Manimal. So he turned into animals, and most of the time it was a hawk and a black panther, and every once in a while he would turn into like a horse and things like that. Now the packaging is very reminiscent of Manimal because you have a hawk and a black panther, but you also have these really screwy human, mutant, animal hybrid things kind of just on there. And there were 2 in total. One is this snake guy, and it looks kind of more reminiscent of that like 70s made-for-TV horror movie. You remember that? Anyway, yeah, this cobra-looking dude with its molded arms at its side, and that's pretty much all these were just plastic toys. They weren't posable, they weren't anything other than just glorified, plastic dinosaur-esque toys. So you had this cobra and this lion, manicore looking thing. I mean, give this dude a scorpion tail and you got an awesome manicore for your LJN D&D toys. Anyway, yeah, I think this is definitely loosely inspired, maybe, by the Manimal TV show. I mean, I definitely hope so. I mean, that's the headcanon I would love to go with, because I love that show. And, yeah, it deserved toys. It deserved more than 8 episodes. Like I said, I was just a sad, distraught little dude waiting for that next episode, and it never came. So, if I would have seen these toys when I was a kid, yeah, I probably would have loved to have them. Now, I mean, they would be cool to have like in a, you know, D&D fantasy kind of way, and they're really creepy, you know, in that realm. And yeah, I mean, that's why I'm putting these in the monster toys category opposed to TV show categories, because yeah, look at these. They're pretty darn monstrous. Number 4, honestly, was very hard to nail down, because even today, it's a very popular form of transformable toy from Japan. But to avoid any confusion, we are looking at a specific toy from a specific toy line from a specific year, and that is the Egg Monsters, released by Bandai in 1987. Like I said, this style of transformable egg is definitely still going strong, with even more modern interpretations of monsters and characters being made. But for this, like I said, we are just focusing on the 1987 window of these egg monsters. Now, with the little bit of research that I did, I have found that in the 1987 line of the Bandai Egg Monsters, there were 8 in total. There could have been more, there could have been less, but these are what I found within that time frame. And, I mean, they're awesome. They are egg-shaped that transform into different creatures. And you had everything from a skeleton, a couple of dinosaurs, a wolf man, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, these things were great, and the packaging actually harkens back to like those awesome model kits from the 60s. Another really neat factoid that I found out about them, that these were a bigger rage in Europe than they ever were here in America, and of course in Japan, where they originated from. Now, a lot of the collectors that I could find online are from Europe. I mean, I found a couple French collectors, a German collector, and some from the UK. Now, I am super happy for them and very envious, because yeah, these should have been a bigger hit here in America. I mean, I would have loved to have these toys, and I know a lot of you out there would have as well. Now, I saw a lot of ones from 89, 90 onward. Heck, I saw that they have reproductions of these original boxes out there. So, like I said, it was really hard to nail down, and I really honed in on that window of 1987. Now, to be honest, I don't know if 87 was when they were created or when they, were internationally, shipped around the world. So I don't really know the significance of 87, but I know that must have been a pretty awesome year, because I would have loved to have these toys. And like I said, the egg design is still going strong. I mean, my kids actually have a few transformable eggs in their collections, and those, I think, were even bootlegs. Then they transformed into dinosaurs, and I still thought they were pretty awesome. Number 5 on the list is and I hate using the word, a knockoff monster toy line that is kind of infamous nowadays. And that is Sun Gold's Monster toy line. Yes, simply Monster. These were released in 1985, and they featured some of the most popular monsters in history and of cinema of the time. Now, the one thing that makes them very infamous nowadays was what they called their version of Freddy Krueger, and that was Sharp-Hand Joe. But, Sharp-Hand Joe aside, some of the other names were very creative for how simple the monsters were and how many hurdles they were willing to jump just to escape a copyright lawsuit. The other names were Bloody Mummy, Killing Beast, Midnight Wolf, Green Frankie, and Lord of the Vampires. Sun Gold definitely bobbed and weaved to escape those lawyers coming at them, because no, we didn't make Dracula, we made Lord of the Vampires. No, that's not Universal's Mummy, that is the Bloody Mummy. And of course, Freddy Krueger? Never heard of him. This is Sharpan Joe. Duh! But honestly, I mean, I think the term werewolf is just commonplace. I mean, Midnight Wolf, I really don't think you needed to go that far, but I'm really glad you did, because these names are chef's kiss. I mean, good job, Sun Gold. Good job. And like I mentioned with Fleetwood, Sun Gold is another repeat offender in the Plastic Ghosts universe, with their toy lines that are direct homages to more popular toy lines at the time. Like I said, I hate using the word knockoff, rip-off, what have you, because at the end of the day, these are toys, you played with them, you had fun. Who cares how much they cost or where they came from? Because a lot of these knockoffs were really creative and created a toy universe all their own. These, on the other hand, not so much, but they're still awesome, they're still monsters, and again, like I said much earlier in this episode, any monster toy is a good monster toy. Anyway, folks, that was a look at 5 forgotten 80s monster toys. And we will be taking this monster hunt to eBay to see what kind of lasting impression these plastic ghosts have left on nostalgia and pop culture, and what kind of price that goes for. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky.